was announced, people have been arguing what is status quo. I mean, court says maintain the status quo. We know that for the past year, David Mark has been the chairman of ADC. This man who went to court and said when the previous executive led by Ralph Mosu resigned, he was the deputy chairman. Where was he? Why did he wait until at this critical time? But
the talk is that he also resigned.
Yeah, I've seen the papers that he also resigned, but now has been mobilized to come and cause confusion. But let me say that the problem is not even if this thing between what you call imbroglio between INEC and ADC was the only issue, we would have sat down and thought carefully about it. But it seems to be part of a pattern. Many people think it's a pattern. The PDP has been effectively destroyed by a single person, the FCT minister. Crisis was sown in the Labour Party. So when all the opposition figures were running into ADC, now this crisis, appearance of it has been engineered, and really INEC has to be very careful, because the impression it has given people is that it is part of the scheme, you know, to destroy all the opposition parties. Now the opposition guys wanted to register some other political parties ADA. Like ADA. INEC sat on it for the last 2 years. Instead, it registered a few unheard of political parties and didn't register that ADA. Now they went to ADC, and now you come up with this, and just when you unrolled a timetable and said all the parties should go and compile a register of members, and they should come and do congresses and conventions. How can they do congresses and conventions when on your website you have deleted the leadership, so there is nobody to invite you, and you said whoever does conventions that we do not supervise, they should know that it is in vain.
Why the motion should not be granted? Now, the parties were expected to file counter affidavit and show cause why the application should be refused. So they did. But at the same time, the Senator David Mark decided to go on appeal. So when he filed the appeal, sometime on the 18th of September, 2025, the appeal lasted until the 12th of March this year, which is about 5 months. And the Court of Appeal not only dismissed the appeal, it was an interlocutory appeal. They dismissed the appeal and at the same time made some preservatory orders. And the preservatory orders were very clear, to the extent that, number one, in view of the fact that INEC had already released its timetable for the election, that the trial judge was directed an order to proceed with the case expeditiously. That is, the court granted accelerated hearing. And this is an originating summons, which ordinarily can be decided within some few days, some few weeks. That is number one. Then number two, which is now causing the controversy, is the order, specific order, that parties should maintain status quo ante bellum. I did not just stop at that. The parties should not do anything that will force a fait accompli on the trial courts. And finally, that parties should not do anything that will render the proceedings before the court nugatory. Those were the definite orders of the Court of Appeal. Now, when I first heard of it, because it was delivered on the 12th, I heard of it on the news, social media. And before I knew it, people were calling me that INEC has the David Mark name group has been ordered to be removed. I said I cannot act on social media news information. I read it on the social media. Then I look at it, it was an interlocutory appeal that has been dismissed. So ordinarily, we should be talking of going for the substantive trial. Then on the 16th day of March 2026, I received 2 letters. One from the solicitors of Senator David Mark's group, requesting me to maintain the status quo at the Federal High Court and not to recognize the other camp led by Nafiu Bala. And on that same day, I also received another letter from Summit Chambers, the solicitors to Nafiu Bala, that by order of the court, he was supposed to be recognized as the leader, national leader of ADC. I requesting that I should comply with the order. So naturally, when you receive such communications, you have to refer it for advice. I call a meeting of the legal department and the EPM, and we look at the facts based on the judgment. And the EPM specifically requested that since there was going to be a meeting of the political parties, what do we do in this circumstance? And secondly, that they had received notice of the meeting of INEC of ADC by David Mark's group. So looking on the face of the judgment, and then I felt, okay, what you should do in this circumstance, we are just receiving this case. Invite them. Go ahead, invite them, monitor whatever. As soon as I did that, I got another letter from Summit Chambers on the 27th day of March 2026. And that letter specifically drew my attention to another motion ex parte, an emotional notice filed on the 15th day of December 2025. Now, in that ex parte application, they were asking for an order restraining David Mark and his group from parading themselves as the leaders of the party. And secondly, restraining INEC from monitoring any of the meetings or recognizing whatever that comes out of the meeting. So this was a proceeding that was filed on the 15th day of December before the judgment of the Court of Appeal. And so they were alleging that given the fact that they had already brought the notice of the Court of Appeal judgment to me, I still proceeded to ask that EPM should monitor their next meeting, that I was in violation of that judgment. And also for inviting them for the meeting of the political parties was also a violation of the judgment of the Court of Appeal. At that stage, I now had to call for the file so that to be abreast of the fact fully, and then went through the judgment and also look at it, the order, the nature of the order granted by the Court of Appeal. Now, first and foremost, the Court of Appeal stated clearly and ordered that status quo ante bellum must be maintained.
Which is the problem.
Which is, well,
because at the press conference,
yes,
Senator David Mark said that you took sides because it was not for you or INEC to interpret what status quo ante bellum means. That you should have gone to the Court of Appeal to seek an interpretation instead of imposing an interpretation. Because, as he said, like Nafiu Gumbe has no local standing in the matter, having resigned from the party on the 18th of May, which was communicated to INEC, and which was a letter INEC acknowledged. And on the basis of that, he was saying that, look, INEC has become a threat to democracy. In fact, the spokesperson of the party, Malam Bolaji Abdullah, in fact, went further on the morning show earlier to say that INEC has become a criminal organization, and they will not agree.
Well, that is unfortunate if INEC is being described in that form.
I'm quoting.
But the truth of the matter is that after the Court of Appeal judgment, I received another letter from David Mark's group informing us of the rescheduling of the election activities for the primaries. And now, when I look at the motion that was already pending before the Federal High Court, that INEC should not monitor any meeting, congress, or convention. So, if you go back to the order of the Court of Appeal, and that was the major concern, if you go back to the order, none of the parties should do anything that will foist a situation of fait accompli on the court. So it means that so long as that motion is pending, if you say somebody does not have local standard, it's already gone to the court. So you have to wait. You can't just assume. You have to wait for the court to decide whether and that is part of what the Court of Appeal was saying. Let the court decide the rights and the responsibilities of the parties. So when they gave that notice to go ahead with the Congress and convention, I said that will be breaching that part of the order of the Court of Appeal that says none of the parties should do anything that will foist a fait accompli on the trial court in respect of the subject matter. And that is part of the relief they are claiming in their originating motion summons. And that is also what they are claiming in their motion ex parte and the interlocutory motion, notice or a motion or notice. So given the fact that they are informing me that they are going to hold their Congress, I think on the 9th of April.
Yes.
And the Court of Appeal said, don't do anything that will affect the subject matter of the pending case in the Federal High Court until it is decided. Now, at that stage, we felt it would be necessary to look at the complaint of all the parties. The letter written by the council, and then the letter written by them calling for us resettling their Congress. So it was at that stage that we decided to meet and look at the facts, the circumstances. What is status quo ante bellum? So if they are saying that we've taken side, that is not true. Because if you look at status quo ante bellum, we try to interrogate it. And it naturally means that the status before the hostility started. And in some cases, there are several authorities that says the status before the war. And the status when things were peaceful, the peaceful conduct until the controversy came. So if you look at it from that perspective, and there are Supreme Court decisions to that effect, that when status quo is even different from status quo ante bellum. So when you talk of status quo ante bellum, it means I have to go back. And that was the specific order of the Court of